Hamid, the sheer scale of this disaster is mind-boggling and very difficult to comprehend from afar. Can you just sum up for us, describe for us just how bad these floods are?
Well, I can sadly inform you that over the last 1 week alone, there have been 50 more deaths of children who are living in camps. And that's basically because of waterborne diseases which are spreading in these camps. So the situation, despite the help that we're receiving from around the world, for which we are extremely grateful, the situation, unfortunately, is, I think, going to get a bit worse before it starts getting better, because the waters are still rising in certain areas. And until they recede, people cannot start going back to their homes.
And you can put a number like 50 deaths of children in camps in the last week. We saw some of us might have seen a report on ABC TV during the week. Sally Sarr, our correspondent there, talking about a 2-year-old girl called Benazir who was born in rural Pakistan, never had a birth certificate, has died without a death certificate. Perhaps she's not even counted in these figures. I mean, the death toll could be more.
You're absolutely right. It's frankly speaking, it's very, very depressing. As a human being, it gets you down if you really scour the media, the international media, which is covering this catastrophe. There are 500,000 expectant women in camps as well who are going to be giving birth very, very shortly. And one really shudders when one imagines the conditions under which they're going to be giving birth. So it's a very, very serious humanitarian situation which requires a lot of medical assistance and a lot of clean drinking water.
And when we spoke last time, we talked about how complicated that is because the floods, of course, have devastated a lot of critical infrastructure, including health clinics and hospitals. We also talked about the relief effort, which at that point was too slow, the government relief efforts and the personal response. We are holding this appeal today. Is there something you'd like to say to everybody listening in terms of what's needed and in terms of the scope of the need, I guess?
Well, firstly, I would like to thank, the Australian people, all my friends who have been so forthcoming and so helpful and have provided so much to the Pakistani people at this time of need. Because Australia is number 5 in the world list of bilateral donors who have provided aid to Pakistan. And secondly, there are a number of corporations and companies which are assisting Pakistan through international agencies, and we frankly don't even know about the help that they're providing. But this is not about politics. This is not about any other agenda. This is about saving lives. This is about saving innocent young children. And it's about saving the frail and the elderly whose homes and lives have been washed away. And they find themselves stranded and marooned on patches of land, surrounded by standing, stagnant water, full of diseases. And it's all about helping to save lives, helping to sustain life at this very difficult time in Pakistan.
And what sort of feedback are you getting from your country in a sense that the relief effort is getting to a size and capacity that it is able to cope? Because earlier, of course, it wasn't able to cope, and we know there was been a shortage of helicopters and all those vital things you need to get to people stranded on tracts of land.
No, we still need a lot of help, especially you've mentioned helicopters. Just yesterday, the United Nations said that 40 more helicopters were needed immediately. Because in one area alone, there are up to 800,000 people completely cut off by land or by rail. The only way to get water, food and medicine to them is through helicopters. So still a lot of assistance is needed, especially as far as boats and helicopters are concerned.
I was listening to ABC Radio on the way into work early this morning, and one caller said that she wanted to give. She was touched by the plight of the people affected by the floods, but she wouldn't give money to Pakistan because she didn't trust the governance there, basically. She said, corruption would mean that the money wouldn't get to those who need it. Is there an element of concern about the governance capacity, really, in Pakistan to make sure that the relief dollars are spent well?
I think you've used the right word, capacity. It's the logistics of this calamity are so enormous that any government on earth would be struggling to meet the needs of each one of its citizens who's been displaced. It is a logistical nightmare. You have an area the size of the United Kingdom which is underwater, and people are scattered all over this. Many people, the government does not even know where they are. So aid agencies are doing a wonderful job, but we would hope that they would ramp up their operations and many more volunteers, trained volunteers, would come into Pakistan in the days and months to come. We need a lot of medical teams. We need medical teams which can bring their own medical supplies, because the twin evils that we are battling right now are starvation and disease. And these are the two evils which are going to take a horrendous toll on poor, helpless, innocent people if we cannot get help to them on time.
What about efforts by the rest of the world, particularly neighbouring countries? Obviously, Pakistan's relationship with India has always been difficult. Do you feel India is doing enough to help?
Well, India had offered us $5 million in assistance for flood relief, and after considering the situation, and the government of Pakistan did eventually accept that. So we are accepting help from most quarters that offer it, because the need of the people is so great at the moment.
Is that enough in your view? I mean, $5 million from India doesn't seem much. What about the offerings from countries like Australia and, wealthier countries? Are countries offering enough?
Well, Pakistan and India having gone to war thrice over the last, many decades, the situation between us is fairly complex, and there are a lot of nuances and linkages because of which we are not really actively asking India to help us. And the international community has responded very positively in the wake of the United Nations special session that was held on the 19th. We have pledges of over $800 million now from friends around the world. But as I said, it's a question of channelizing all those pledges into food, medicine and water, and getting that down to the people, the millions of people, the children and the elderly who are displaced.
And has that task been made more difficult with the news that's broken overnight coming out of Washington, I think, suggesting that Pakistan Taliban have announced that they're going to target aid workers involved in this relief effort, which of course means the relief agencies are going to have to be more concerned about their own security.
Even prior to this concern having been made public by the United States, our Prime Minister has met with our Interior Minister, who's in charge of all internal security. And special measures are being put into place and have been put into place to ensure the safety and security of all international aid workers. Because the very last thing that Pakistan needs at this time is for any miscreant to cause any mischief at all, which would impede the relief effort.
And there's also been talks, I think we talked about this when I spoke to you last time, about Taliban-linked or Al-Qaeda-linked aid agencies developing a sort of foothold in some communities by being the ones to deliver aid. We spoke to our correspondent Sally Sarah a little earlier, who said she thought that was concerns like that had to be further pushed back on the agenda because the priority is just getting aid by whoever can deliver it.
There have been reports that certain groups vaguely affiliated with certain fundamentalist groups have been providing aid on the ground. But as you rightly point out, if it's a case of feeding a starving child or providing water to a frail elderly old lady, at this moment in time, you can't really question anybody who's doing good.
Do you have evidence of fundamentalist Islamist groups being in
No, not in an organized fashion, but in some hamlet somewhere or in some camp in some far-flung area, if these organizations are doing some good work, I think that is just one more reason why the government of Pakistan should get a lot of support from its friends around the world, because we cannot let these people capitalize on this situation and win hearts and minds.
And does that worry you, that thought?
Obviously, if the government and the international community is not seen to be very effective and it's not visibly providing assistance to the people, and if people get it from some other source, naturally, I mean, being human beings, a modicum of sympathy will arise in their minds for those who are providing them help.
Hamid Khan, we thank you for coming in today. Obviously, this is a very difficult time for you. You're here in Sydney. Do you have extended family members affected by the floods?
No, fortunately not. I belong to a city which has not been affected by the floods because there are no rivers over there. So I've been personally very fortunate. But obviously, it's a very, very deeply distressing time for me to be in such a lovely city, in such a prosperous country, serving abroad at a time when millions of people in my country don't even have water or food food with which to sustain themselves.
Hamid Khan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much once again for this appeal.
Hamid Khan is the Consul General at the Pakistan Consulate in Sydney, and this appeal he referred to there is on all ABC radio all day long. If you'd like to donate to help people affected by the floods, you can donate to any number of charities that are working on the ground here. We've got a list of them on our website, abc.net.au/rn. They include charities like UNICEF, Red Cross, World Vision, Save the Children, Caritas, Plan International and Oxfam. But anyone you want, they'll be happy to use your dollars.